Well, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Dylan Talks Tone. If you'll recall in the last video, we reviewed this here Gretsch Jet 290, and there's a couple of things that we want to do to it this week. We want to talk about the... Apparently there's a siren in the background. We want to talk about the Bigsby with the tuning stability situation, because we know that that is a thing. And so we want to get this guitar playing well and staying in tune. It just doesn't. So I'm going to give you some tips and tricks to set up your Bigsby, whether it be the B50, which is this one, or actually any of the models on any guitar. There's a couple that are a little different, but I'll just give you some main pointers. And then we're going to do some other stuff. Maybe we're going to look at the nut, we're going to look at the saddles. And then we're also, I've got a set of these custom P90s that I made for this guitar that we're going to put in here too. So let's get all this work done so we can hear this thing when it's finished. I would like to thank my Patreon supporters who make these kind of projects possible. We use the Patreon dollars to buy projects like this, and then we also give them kind of first dibs on when it's done. So that kind of thing. So we appreciate you very much. And also, like, where the pickups, where you can buy the pickups at Dylan Talks Tone, and various links below for buying the tools and various things that we're going to use in this project today. So I appreciate you all for supporting that stuff. All right, let's get this guitar apart. Okay, so what we're going to work on today is we want to get this Bigsby to be a little bit more stable for the playing of the guitar. It doesn't stay in tune very well. First thing we need to do is get the strings off. In fact, let's go ahead and get the strings off. Let's get the new pickups put in, and then we'll work on the Bigsby setup as we put the guitar back together. Okay, pickups are in the guitar. So we've got this here set. This is one of our custom sets. You can go to our website and you can see there's a little section. I'll leave a link to it in the description. You can get our regular P90s, obviously, but every once in a while we'll do some cool custom sets. We've got a couple others available as well. Now, let's talk about the Bigsby stability. The very first thing I like to start with on any Bigsby guitar is the actual unit itself. The B50, which is what this one is because it's the licensed import one, has nylon bushings in it, okay? And Bigsby's are flat on the bottom. At least a B5 is flat, B5 or B50 is flat on the bottom. This is an arch top guitar, or a carved top guitar. So there's little gaps here and there. When you screw the Bigsby down onto the guitar, you do not want to wrench this thing all the way down. All your sustain bros, totally more sustain bro, all your sustain bros are gonna say that you have to actually like completely tighten this thing down because it's gonna totally kill sustain bro if you don't. But the problem is that if you do that, you can tweak the bottom of the Bigsby and you can bend it a little bit. And then these bars won't be parallel anymore, and they'll have a little tweak in them, and it'll bind up these bushings and bearings. And it's really critical, especially on the Asian ones, because they've got plastic bushings in them and they can bind up super easy. So we want to make sure, this one's actually really good. We want to make sure that it just kind of flops around. Now, if we were to like stop it anywhere and like it stayed, or it like slowly went down instead of just flopping very easily, what we would want to do is use a screwdriver and loosen or tighten these screws just a little, like, just a quarter of a turn, or just kind of tweak it back and forth a little bit until we get that Bigsby perfectly flat, no matter whether it's tight to the guitar or not. We don't want it to rattle, but we don't need it over tightened for sustain. We want the thing to actually function smoothly. This one's actually really good. So the next place we need to want to go on this deal is on very inexpensive guitars. The saddles, the chrome on the saddles, the quality isn't super amazing, okay? So there might be some little edges and stuff like that in the chrome, in the saddles that we want to clean up. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some fret files, and we're not going to change the height of anything here, but we're just going to give them a little polish with a fret file just to make sure there's no burrs and to make sure that the chrome doesn't have any little stuff sticking up, because like I said, on less expensive guitars, it'll do that. Now, another thing you might have noticed is this wiggles back and forth. That's okay. That's totally okay, because even though that might feel cheap, that's actually allowing the strings to move. The strings really only move back and forth about that far, right? So when we get the strings on, one of the things we're going to want to do is make sure that we scooch this to where it's in the middle, and it can go back some and it can go forward some, okay? We don't want it all the way locked to the one side, and then when we go to pull up on the Bigsby or let the Bigsby relax, the strings can't move that way, or vice versa. If it's all the way this way and we push down, it can't go that way anymore, and so it won't return to pitch. We want this thing, and they're not really always supposed to be like this, but since this one is like this, we're gonna let it do it, and we're gonna set it up properly. It does have a little rattle in it, but I don't think it will actually do that with this tension of the strings on it. Anyway, let me grab some files and we'll fix that bridge. All right, so now again, I'm not gonna spend a lot of time here. I'm just gonna kind of clean them. I just want to make sure that we don't have any. Yeah, see, like the first drag across there was pretty gnarly. 28. Sorry, I'm not doing them in order. That's not actually changing any depth of anything. I just want to clean it up. Yeah, the first time I drag it across there, it really had some goo in there. All right, 46. That's 36. This will be 46. All right. Now, let's go ahead and move down to the nut. All right, so the nut's gonna be the same thing. I don't really want to spend any time grinding on it. I just wanna clean out any little burrs or anything. Okay, that's all we're doing here. Yeah, see how it kicked out a little burr there? I'm not doing anything that would change the overall dimensions. Just clean it up. 16. I don't know if you can see that, but on a couple of these, it was actually, it'll kick out a little piece of plastic. Alright, well, let's go ahead and get some strings back on this thing. I'm going to oil this fretboard while I'm at it too, and then with some lizard spit fretboard oil, and then we're going to get some strings back on this thing, and we will see what it looks like. I would have to say that the results pretty much speak for themselves. This thing is pretty freaking cool now. So there's a couple of things we should talk about. First of all, these pickups sound fantastic. A lot more clarity. They do hit the amp harder, so I don't know if you noticed, but in the gainy kind of stuff, it hits the amp harder. So on a low wattage amp, you'll have to do a little adjusting to make sure that you can get some nice clean stuff out of it. But they do cleans very, very well. Lots of clarity, lots of articulation, and as you saw with the higher gain stuff, every note was heard. That's kind of what we do here at Dylan Talks Tone, and I'm very proud of it. I love these pickups. It's so fun. This guitar is really fun. As far as the Bigsby goes, it's very stable. So the way I recorded this was I did the clean stuff, played with the Bigsby a little bit, you heard. Now, expectations being what they are, this is not a Floyd. So you saw I didn't move it very much. That's what a Bigsby vibrato is for. It's to create these kind of vibrato up and down motions. It's not a whammy bar, okay? That's not what a Bigsby does. So using it in that way, the guitar is very, very stable. In fact, I think if we just go, yeah, it still stays in tune pretty well. So cleaning up the little edges on here, cleaning up the little edges on the nut, making sure that the bridge is centered in the area where it pivots back and forth, making sure the Bigsby is not over tightened so that you can actually see that it's flat and it's not like torqued against the body. Those are three big key things. Now I want to address one thing. A lot of folks will take this center bar out because they feel that it adds friction. It's a roller, okay? And so as long as it's working properly and the Bigsby is screwed to the guitar right and it's not binding, the roller is very important. And if you take it out, you can introduce tuning stability issues and other problems because you lose the breakover angle at this bridge right here. We need that breakover angle that's probably about 30 degrees or so. If we lessen that breakover angle, then the tension downward on the bridge itself makes the pivot not work properly. Because the goal is to not make the strings slide over the bridge more smoothly. It's to actually make the thing move properly so that it doesn't have to slide. And in reality, what then that does is that makes it to where when we move the Bigsby, we're slackening the strings instead of sliding the strings, which means that we're sliding the strings less over the nut too. So we're actually just relaxing and letting the strings come back, relaxing and letting the strings come back to change the pitch instead of sliding the guitar across things that cause more tuning stability because more friction. So you need this breakover angle. Don't take that roller out. Everybody thinks that's a fix, but it's just a band-aid to cover up a problem and create another one. So don't do that. Once you get it this far, this is a freaking amazing guitar. We are going to have our regular P90s, if you don't like these mesh kind, on the website. But there will also be in the special, on the front page of the website, there's a little section for special edition pickups. And we will have a few sets of these chrome ones, probably 5 or 10 sets of these chrome ones if you want these. And they're a little more expensive because they take me a lot of time to make. But they're very cool. And I think you'll dig them, so we will have these available for just a few sets. Also, we will have in the links below some of the various little tools and stuff that we used to do the work on this guitar. And yeah, I think this thing's really cool, as well as a link to the guitar itself, because I think this is a great, great entry point into the Gretsch world. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for hanging out at Dylan Talks Tone. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button and the like button. We're getting closer to 100,000. That would be really, really cool. As well as we got a bunch of content coming out. We got a bunch of Patreon stuff happening. So if you're interested in any of that stuff, hit the buttons down there for that. All those things. Otherwise, we will see you tomorrow in our podcast.